Hello and welcome to 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿 Bundesliga match day 11 after 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿 won by Bayern Munich. This is winning. They smashed Borussia Dortmund, but still we have Bayern Leverkusen on top of the table. Ronan Murphy, hello.
Hello, how are things?
All good. Did you enjoy 𝐿𝐿? Did you enjoy Hurricane? Someone was having some doubts about his adaptation to the German football. Well, it looks like he's been there for forever.
It does, and I think you could see that after he celebrated his hat trick, he was able to hold up three the German way. He held it up this way rather than the usual English way. So he seems to have picked up a few German customs, as well as the fact he can hit a hat trick in his first Klassiker, and what better way to kind of announce your name on the world stage. And if you look at his goal scoring rate at the moment, it's 15 goals in 10 games, and if he continues that, Robert Lewandowski's 41 goal Bundesliga record will be smashed.
It was the Inglorious Bastard test, right? The three, and I read also that he is living in a 5-star hotel. It's like £1,500 a night or something like this. The bill is already over £1 million of the hotel. So I guess there will be someone very happy in that hotel getting money from Bayern Munich. Well, let's analyze this new match day, guys. Remember to ask any question to Ronan Murphy, and of course, press the like and subscribe. Let's go on with the show. Well, and if you want to bet also in this Bundesliga, use this promo code and this offer from 1xBet. You can get a welcome bonus of 130%. Use our promo code 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽𝐿 YouTube. This match day starts on Friday with Gladbach, Wolfsburg. Gladbach picking up decent results lately, even if they could have won in Freiburg. They were leading 3-1. At the end was a draw, but they beat Heidenheim twice, plenty of goals. The last 5 games actually saw both teams to score, whereas for Wolfsburg, the big news was the victory in the cup against Leipzig. In the Bundesliga, they are winless in 4. But Ronan, like in most of the Bundesliga games, this one could be good for goals. In the last 4 games for Wolfsburg, also we saw both teams to score.
Yeah, it has been, and you saw that in both the draws that the teams had last week. Like you said, Gladbach came or let a 3-1 lead slip against Freiburg, but they still had a 3-3 thriller in that game. There was plenty of goals in that game, and Wolfsburg, they led in their match as well, and against Bremen, and that was a 2-2, another kind of thrilling affair there. And the Maxence Lacroix, the defender, he'll be missing because he got sent off in that one, so he'll be a kind of absence for them. But they'll be disappointed, I think, from that result. Both teams in this match will be disappointed that they let kind of leads slip in the games last weekend, and they'll be kind of eager to get back on the score sheet, get back scoring, and both teams to score, like you said, could be an interesting one here because, like you said, in the past few games, both teams have scored lots of goals, and Gladbach, we've been kind of waiting for them to arrive. They've been putting in decent performances, but they haven't really been turning them into results. And I think this is a match where both teams could get on the score sheet early. And one of our comments, the Bremex, says that this one screams over 3.5 goals, and perhaps it could. I think there could be plenty of goals in this one. It could be an interesting Friday night fixture, because some of the Friday night fixtures we've had, especially on European weeks, haven't been that great recently. But this one actually looks like a fairly appealing one for just to tune in. Aside from a betting perspective, it looks like it's going to be an entertaining one that should scream goals for us, and that could be a good avenue to go down. This to be a high scoring game. Who wins it? It's hard to predict, and I think the draw looks fairly tasty actually there. And Wolfsburg, even as an away side, because Gladbach, even though they have been performing well at times, they haven't been turning those kind of performances into victories. So both of those look like good options, but I think I might hedge my bets here and go for Wolfsburg Asian handicap 0, and that's 2.17.
Well, Gladbach, they are the favorites. So if you are going for a draw no bet, for instance, it's better to go for Wolfsburg as you are doing. The odds are higher, or even for a draw. You just mentioned it. The odds are beautiful. Over 4. This is odd, and the odds for a very balanced game is very good. Both teams suffering in the last seasons. We were used to see them playing even in the Champions League. Now out of Europe, they have to play on a Friday evening. On Saturday, we have Augsburg. Hoffenheim is the first game. Augsburg, they are doing a good season so far, 6 points away from the relegation spots. They are in good form, draw against Cologne, but before that beat Wolfsburg and Heidenheim. Whereas for Hoffenheim, they had a bad week out of the cup, lost to Leverkusen. I guess this is normal, but they are the best away team in the Bundesliga. They won all 5 games, and Hoffenheim to win here is 2.5.
Yeah, I think you have to look kind of favourably on Hoffenheim coming out of this game with something, but equally, I think you have to look at Augsburg coming out with this game favourably as well, because again, they went behind and were able to pick up points last week. And when you weren't on the show last week, I said that the Augsburg had the most, that they held the record in the Bundesliga with Borussia Dortmund for going behind but still coming back and carving out some sort of result. So they had 4 last week and they made it 5 then in that game, and their new head coach has to take a lot of credit. I think they've looked good since 𝐬𝐽𝐴𝐽𝐻 has come in, and since he's come in, they've gone behind in all 3 games, but they picked up 7 points from those 3 games. So it seems like a different Augsburg than we've seen earlier in the season, and they're kind of hitting form now. They seem to know what they're doing. And Hoffenheim, they've been a bit up and down. Obviously, you said it's no disappointment, real or no shock to lose to Bayer Leverkusen. But I think 2 of the goals they scored, one was a wonder goal, and the second one was a tap in after an attempted wonder goal that was kind of parried out to Wout Weghorst, and he tapped in from close range. It wasn't a difficult finish for him, and there was a great stat I saw that all 61 of his Bundesliga goals have been inside the box. So if Weghorst has the ball outside the box, let him do whatever he likes. And when he gets into the box, that's the time to maybe close him down and stop him from scoring. This one, I think it could be another case of maybe Augsburg coming from behind to pick up points again. If you look at the halftime, full-time, away at halftime and draw at full-time is 14. That could be worth looking at. Augsburg's Asian handicap 0 is 1.98. But I think there's great value. There looks to be great value in the draw overall in this one.
Well, our tool, if we check the Bundesliga page in 𝐿𝐴Zpedia, show us that there are high probabilities to see both teams to score. 9 out of the 10 games played by Hoffenheim ended in both teams to score. 8 out of the 10 for Augsburg with the same outcome. The odds, unfortunately, are low because the bookies also know that. Is 1.48, but could be another option. Let's go down and we can check this beautiful tool that we have. You see, there is a flame there. There is fire because there are high odds and high probabilities to see both teams to score. 1.4, 1.5 could be also a good idea to add it to your ACCA, for instance, in this Augsburg-Hoffenheim. Good luck to find good odds, Ronan, in the next game. Bayern Munich, Heidenheim. I guess Bayern, they were furious after the knockout in the cup against Saarbrücken, and they were into a 𝐿𝐴Sicken, and in 10 minutes, the game was over with a couple of goals. So far, 18 goals conceded in the last 4 Bundesliga games. Now Heidenheim are going there, Ronan, so I guess this should be another 4-5-0, whatever Bayern Munich or Hurricane wants.
Yeah, I think it could be. And you look at those odds on the screen. Heidenheim 46. When do you see any team with odds as huge as that? And it kind of reflects the kind of game state going into the game. It seems like Harry Kane can do whatever he wants in the Bundesliga. Another hat-trick last week, 15 goals for the season so far. He's only the 4th player in Bundesliga history to score 3 hat-tricks in his first season. So you wouldn't be surprised if he made it 4 hat-tricks this weekend against Heidenheim, because they haven't really been a team that have been able to stop goals. They've obviously played out lots of games with lots of goals. They've seemed to be good at scoring, good at conceding. So this could be a very entertaining one, but you would feel a very entertaining one, especially if you're a Bayern Munich fan. I like the way Leroy Sané is playing at the moment. He's the best kind of all-round attacker in Europe this season. He's the only player in any of the big 5 leagues to complete over 25 dribbles, to have taken over 25 shots, and to have created 25 chances. So having a player like that in the form that he's in just makes everything easier for Harry Kane. So you wouldn't be surprised if both of those players got on the score sheet, and both of those players provided assists perhaps for each other. So if you're looking into the goals market, Leroy Sané could be a better option, because Kane, obviously the odds will be terrible for Kane to score, because everyone will be predicting the score. So Leroy Sané could be an option there. I think Heidenheim, they had a great result last week. They beat Stuttgart 2-0, so that should give them a bit of confidence going into this one. But I don't think that they themselves will think they can get anything from this game. But I think a positive performance and some goals would be kind of the greatest hope for them. So I think they could get on the score sheet themselves, even though their odds to win the match are so great. I wouldn't be surprised if they score, and I wouldn't be surprised if they score a couple of times, perhaps. This could be a very high-scoring game. The over goals tallies always looks good in this one, and for this one, my tip would be both teams to score, yes, 2.15, because it's hard to find value anywhere across the board, really, here.
Probably it's better to miss this game if you are betting. Heidenheim, they are doing a good season, 4 points away from relegation, but away from home, they've only got a point against Dortmund. Actually, that was a huge surprise earlier in the season. Next game, I'm sure you are going to find value in the next one, because it's really good. Stuttgart, Borussia Dortmund, both teams lost at the weekend. The big surprise, I guess, was the Stuttgart one against Heidenheim, but Dortmund now, they bounced back in Europe. They got a very important victory against Newcastle. Perhaps I see value on Dortmund. Ronan, even Asian handicap 0 could be a good idea for Dortmund. It pays really well, the victory. Again, for the away team, where do you go in this game? I guess we all expected Stuttgart to start dropping positions at one point in this Bundesliga.
Yeah, you would think so. And I think the kind of bookies look at this one, and it seems to be even across the board. Obviously, the home and away wins are both the exact same at the moment, which is kind of very. It shows the lack of faith in either team to come away with a victory here. So it could be an either-or affair, is what the bookies are looking at here. And obviously, Stuttgart will be boosted by the hope that Guirassy returns. The coach has said that he hopes to see him in this game. He's been back in individual training since Friday. So if he can complete some team training before the weekend, there's a chance he'll feature in this game. I'd be surprised now, obviously, if he starts, but he could make a difference off the bench. And that could be a dangerous one, because we saw earlier in the season just how good he is. He's still in the top scorer race with Harry Kane, despite the fact he's missed kind of the last month of football. He was playing that well before he got injured. But like you said, there will come a time that when Stuttgart will start dropping points, because they have been overachieving so far this season. They seem to overachieve in that game against Heidenheim last week, because it was the record in this season for the most times teams have hit the woodwork in one game. 5 times the woodwork was hit, so it could have been a much higher scoring game for both teams than it ended up. And Stuttgart, I think, were fortunate to come away with a 2-0 win in that one. So I think this could be a much more difficult one for them. And Borussia Dortmund will be eager to bounce back from that disappointing result against Bayern Munich. Obviously, they had that great result in the Champions League, and that will give them confidence going into this. But I think the Bundesliga is where they need to kind of show their mettle, because they're not really proper Champions League contenders, but they can be Bundesliga contenders, and they need to bounce back with a win here. And the odds on Borussia Dortmund, like you said, they look good. 2.67 for any Borussia Dortmund game, as long as it's not against Bayern, seems to be a favourable odds. So I think, like you also said, Borussia Dortmund Asian handicap 0, that could be a better option, because if Guirassy does come back, there's always a chance that he'll get on the score sheet.
Indeed, around 2, Borussia Dortmund Asian handicap 0. There is always a risk of a draw. Last season, for instance, was a 3-all draw. This season, Dortmund, they are not that bad away from home. In the last season, they were having these issues, 2 victories and 2 draws. Probably they have to improve their record, but still no defeats away from home. Very good game, this one. Girassi, by the way, he's not anymore the top scorer of the competition now. We have Harry Kane, of course, in that spot. Less sexy is the next game. Darmstadt, Mainz. Mainz now with 6 points. First victory of the season. Now every single team of the Bundesliga knows how to win a football game. Probably it was in an unexpected way against Leipzig. Now playing against a newly promoted team like Darmstadt, a team that lost against Bochum. One of these games, probably that it hurts because it's a relegation 6-pointer. At home for Darmstadt, Ronan, all 5 games were both teams to score. Perhaps it could be another good option here. I don't know if you see Mainz favorite as the odds are showing us.
No, I don't. I don't see them as favorite. They obviously won last week against RB Leipzig, and that was a shock for everybody watching, and I think it was a shock for many of the Mainz players. I'm not sure they expected it to. And the new managers, Jan Seifert, who's only a caretaker manager who replaced Bo Svensson, he came out after the game and he thanked Svensson, and he said they owed it to him, and so did Daniel Da Costa. He echoed his coach's statements, and he said they owed it to Bo Svensson for the hard work he had done. But the hard work he had done for the rest of the season up until then, we weren't seeing too much of it, and I think they could come crashing down to earth then against Darmstadt. Leipzig was a brilliant win, and they'll remember it long into the season, but this could be a more difficult affair for them, because I think they were very fortunate to come out with anything against Leipzig. They had 3 shots in total, or 3 shots on target in total, and 2 of them went into the goal. They had 36% possession, so Leipzig were the better team for large parts of that match. It's just that Mainz were able to take their chances when they came, and RB Leipzig, as we've seen time and time again in recent years, they haven't taken their chances in games where they should put them to bed. They don't have that same ruthless streak that Bayern Munich have. That's maybe something missing from their kind of title challenger credentials that they need to get. They need to be more ruthless, especially against teams where they should be putting them away. And I think a big loss for Mainz in this one could be 𝐜𝐴𝐵𝐺𝐻𝐸. He was meant to come back and be kind of a key player for them, but he went off and got injured after just 16 minutes against Leipzig. So he'll be missing for, it could be until even the new year. So he'll be a big loss for them in this. I know he hasn't played, obviously, this season, but they were hoping for something from him. And I think the new coach, or the temporary coach, was going to trust him to be a key player for them. Darmstadt, on the other hand, they haven't been as terrible as Mainz, I don't think, so far this season. They're scoring more goals than average, 1.4 goals scored to Mainz's 1.1. So I think they should have the edge in this one. And as it gets closer to the weekend, it seems that the odds for Darmstadt are getting better. When I looked at it last night, it was 2.9, and now it's up to 3.12. So I think a Darmstadt win here could be good value.
Well, 3.12, indeed, even the Asian handicap +1 probably is even good enough for the double chance for Darmstadt, at least. I think the double chance would be around 1.8. Probably we are going to see a really interesting Bundesliga. Also in the bottom, we have only 3 points from Bochum in the 14th spot until Cologne. Right now, they are the worst team in the Bundesliga with only 5 points. And Cologne, they are playing against Bochum, actually. So even if Cologne are able to win away, they will be level on points. Bochum slightly favorite, 2.5, perhaps with the results in the last games. Probably even Bochum should be even more favorite, but the bookies don't trust also the home team. It could be a good idea backing Bochum or even Asian handicap 0. I'm always kind of skeptical to back a team as poor as Bochum on Darmstadt before, because it's a high risk. These teams are not used to win every weekend.
No, they're definitely not. And Bochum won last week, and it would be unheard of for them to win 2 matches in a row, really, because exactly. These are two teams that only have 1 win each. So it would be a surprise if Bochum were able to win 2 games in a row. And even after that game, it was a win over 10-man Darmstadt. The coach came out and said that he didn't really care how they got the result, just that they got the result, and it wasn't a pretty game. And he was complaining that the team were sloppy, gave away possession too much, that the players really need to be better in front of goal, that they could have done much better. And if he's kind of this angry after a win, you kind of wonder what will happen if things kind of continue to go badly for them. Bochum seem to, they're not getting a lot of wins, obviously, but they have drawn 5 times this season, so that could be indicative of what could happen here. And I think this could be a low-scoring affair. Both sides are averaging 1 goal or less a game. Bochum 1 goal exactly a game so far this season. Cologne haven't even got the 1 goal mark, 0.8 goals per game this season. They just seem to be dreadful in front of goal. They're not getting a lot of goals. So both teams to score no could be an option, but I think total goals under 2.5 looks decent enough. Just over 2.17 could be good odds to look at. But overall, I think this one, a draw, looks appetizing for me, because the last 2 games where Bochum have been at home versus Cologne, they've both been draws. 1-1 last season, a 2-2 the season before. So a draw looks very likely for this one, I think.
Indeed, that could be a good idea. Remember, Bochum, no victories at home, 3 draws. Cologne, the worst team away in the Bundesliga, only 1 point, and conceded a lot of goals. This time goes alone in the schedule. It's a late kickoff on Saturday, probably not worth our time, right, Ronan?
No, I think like I said, with the Friday evenings sometimes aren't giving us the best kickoffs. This one is a Champions League week where the Saturday top spiel, as they call it in Germany, isn't definitely not giving us an entertaining fixture to tune in. Maybe the Premier League might have something better shows.
Probably. Not, spend your time in something else. On Sunday, we have 3 games in the Bundesliga. Bayern Leverkusen, Union Berlin is the first one, and this one for sure is going to be worth watching, because it's always worth watching. Leverkusen still top of the table, only 1 draw, 30 goals scored. That's a lot. And Union Berlin also breaking records, but in a negative way. 12 consecutive defeats. They are playing in Napoli in the Champions League. In the Bundesliga, they haven't scored in the last 3 games, so I guess we should expect an easy victory perhaps for Leverkusen.
Yeah, I think that could be 14 consecutive defeats by the time this match comes around. They'll lose to Napoli and they'll lose to Bayer Leverkusen. And on the other hand, Leverkusen, they're currently on their own kind of club record run, 10 competitive wins in a row. So they could make that 11 in the Europa League against Karabag, and then 12 against Union Berlin this weekend. So it could be a great week for Leverkusen, and a terrible one from Union. And last week on the show, I said it wouldn't be a surprise if Urs Fischer was gone by the weekend after things had continued to go badly. There was a Bild report in the newspaper said that he could be sacked. He's surprising he still hasn't been. Wouldn't be surprised if we logged off now and he was out of a job. It seems that this is going to be another difficult week for him, and another difficult week for Union Berlin, because they're just awful at the moment. They can't seem to figure anything out. And I think this is the wrong place to be going to try and figure anything out, because Bayer Leverkusen, like you said, 28 points from a maximum 30. And after 10 games, that's the second best start in Bundesliga history. And the only one that's better was Pep Guardiola's 30 from 30 in the 2015-16 season. So Xabi Alonso is kind of showing he's up there with some of the top coaches in German football history, and will continue here. He'll continue to set records and extend his streak. We're getting some tips in that Bayer Leverkusen minus 1.5 could even be bigger than that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's lots of goals, and that's why my tip here is Bayer Leverkusen Asian handicap minus 1.75. I'm going to go for here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's even more goals than that in the difference at the end.
Football is such a strange sport that perhaps this is the game where both breaks their streak and we see a draw, for instance, and then everything that we've said goes to the trash, and Leverkusen winning run is over, and Union Berlin losing run is also over with a draw or with a Union Berlin victory. Who knows? But well, if we speak from the logic, from the head, for sure, the odds that you've mentioned are good enough to back Leverkusen. Even this could be a safe bet, Leverkusen to win. Next game, Werder Bremen. Frankfurt, finally, it looks like Frankfurt, they've turned the corner and they are doing good things in this Bundesliga, beating Union Berlin 3-0, making 10 out of the last 12 points in the Bundesliga. For Werder Bremen, I guess it's not an easy team to read, to bet on. Should we keep trusting Frankfurt?
Yeah, I think so. I think we should keep trusting them as far as this game goes anyway. Perhaps when they get better opponents and they have to travel to more difficult places. But Werder Bremen haven't been at their best this season. They have been kind of quite inconsistent. Whereas in the past few weeks, like you've said, Frankfurt have been extremely consistent. They haven't lost in the league since September, actually. And the only draw or the only game they didn't win in that period was a 3-3 draw with Dortmund. So their form has been fantastic, and there's no reason why it can't continue going into this game. And if you look at history between the two, history is kind of on Frankfurt's side too. In the last 10 games between them, Frankfurt have won 4 of those games, and they won both games last season, including the Werder Bremen home game where it was a 7-goal thriller. Frankfurt were able to score 4 goals against Bremen's 3 to come out victorious, and this could be another high-scoring affair, I think, because both teams seem to have, well, Frankfurt especially have kind of found their goal-scoring boots. Marmouche has come into good form, and I think both teams to score, yes, could be a decent one here, 1.62 for that. I think it could be a match where Frankfurt lead in the first half going to win, so halftime, full-time away is another one worth looking at. That's 3.75. So, but I think there looks to be great value here in Frankfurt to win, or even Eintracht Frankfurt Asian handicap -1/4, which is just over 2. I think it will be a very good value one.
The Mike's is also telling us both teams to score. For this game, Filosofia, Bremen had the worst defense in the league last season, if my memory serves me right. I cannot remember, to be honest. For sure, they had Füllkrug. By the way, he scored his first Champions League game at his age with Borussia Dortmund. And the last game is RB Leipzig, Freiburg. Terrible week for Leipzig. Defeat against Mainz, out of the cup against Wolfsburg. Luckily for them, they bounce back in the Champions League against Red Star. They are now in the last 16 round. And I guess they should win here. Odds are around 1.5 for Freiburg. Also a bad week because they were out of the cup against Paderborn. And only one victory in the last 4 Bundesliga games. The problem in this season for Freiburg, we've been saying this for many weeks, Ronan, is conceding far too many goals. Last season, they were one of the best defending teams in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think we don't really expect to see that from a Christian Streich team. They're usually very solid at the back, but they're usually kind of disciplined teams that they play to their players' strengths, and it's usually a kind of cohesive tactical unit, but it just doesn't seem to have worked for them so far this season, and they're depending a lot on Vincenzo Grifo to kind of win them points just by himself, and that's not really how Freiburg work. They've never been a team that relied on any superstars. It's always been kind of hard-working, kind of German efficiency, that kind of cliche German efficiency, but that's the way Freiburg have been, and we haven't seen it this season, and we haven't seen it recently. Obviously, we haven't seen a lot from RB Leipzig in the last week or so either, but I think that win in the Champions League, a difficult away tie, will serve them well. It will give them their confidence back. It will show them they can bounce back, especially after that terrible result against Mainz at the weekend. They'll be very disappointed with that one. So Garoub says a pen that has scored. That's always that's always a good option for Leipzig. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets on the score sheet in this one at all. And if you look at the last season and the games between the two teams, they played 3 times last season because they played in the Cup 2. RB Leipzig won them all, and they even won that cup game 5-1. So it could be a game where Leipzig and Freiburg both get on the score sheet. Total goals over 3 is 1.88 in this one. Leipzig to win both halves, 3.5. Obviously, Leipzig home is a great bet, but Leipzig home I think looks like great value in this one.
All right, this is the last game we have before the international break. Of course, in Germany is quieter because they are already qualified for their own Euro. Home win and both teams to score for Philosophia in this Leipzig-Freiburg game. Ronan, which one is your safe bet?
My safe bet this week is RB Leipzig to win, 1.5. I think they can bounce back after that disappointing week. So RB Leipzig to win.
With Xavi Simons scoring also in the Champions League. We've been listening a lot from him since he was in the Barca Academy, and finally he is delivering in the top flight in all competitions. And your ACCA?
My ACCA, Bayern Munich to win both halves, 1.62. Borussia Dortmund, Asian handicap 0, 1.97. Bayer Leverkusen to win, 1.3. And RB Leipzig to win, 1.5, for a total of 6.22.
This is very good odds going for the favorites, actually, in this Bundesliga. Well, enjoy this match day number 11 in the Bundesliga. Thanks, Ronan. Bye-bye.